were two other people at MIT that were under employment at that time, and it was Gavin Andresen, who we know worked with the CIA at least a little bit in regards to Bitcoin. That's public information. And Cory Fields. Cory Fields is another major contributor to Bitcoin Core. Now, none of those guys are Blockstreamers officially. Like, they did not join the company structure of Blockstream, but partially they didn't have a reason to. And the reason they didn't have to is they were being paid for under a grant that came from the MIT Digital Currency Initiative, which was raising money from various donors. And one of them who we know they were raising money with was Jeffrey Epstein. Because Joi Ito, I believe his full name is Joi Ito. He's a Japanese venture capitalist from a company called Digital Garage, and he laundered some amount of money. I don't remember the figure, but it was to the tune. It was over $1 million from Jeffrey Epstein into the Digital Media Lab, and it was allocated into the Bitcoin development project that the university was hosting. And so, as many of us also know about Jeffrey Epstein, he also had very close ties to big banks, big tech, and big government, vis-a-vis the intelligence community. And so, what does all that mean, right? And I don't want to make direct assertions and say Vladimir is definitely a malicious actor, but there's a lot of ingredients there that give a lot of incentive for him to be a malicious actor. Especially, in my opinion, the small blocker ethos and the social engineering that went into the sort of small blocks forever narrative is itself part of the Sybil attack, which I'll be happy to go into. But so I would argue that he is likely a compromised character, and that his contributions were largely negative. I mean, they've been a net negative for Bitcoin being useful for anything except for something useful to big banks, big tech, and big government, which is really the only people who have adopted the technology, and they've only adopted it as a sort of reserve asset or something to invest in, like essentially a financial instrument.
So we know that Gavin Andresen was a well-loved and respected character in the history of Bitcoin. I mean, Satoshi had passed him the keys to the war chest, right? So, but you're saying he also was working at MIT or from MIT, maybe even from the same background as the other guy, Vladimir.
Similar.
So what happened there with Andresen? Because I mean, Satoshi retired in 2011 and passed everything over to Gavin Andresen.
Gavin it was the obvious choice for a couple of reasons. But I think he was also the worst choice for one major reason that I'll go into at the end. But Gavin was not only a nice guy, but a reliable guy, also super experienced. He was a commercial code expert. He was a cryptography expert. He really understood, the why and how about Bitcoin. And he fundamentally agreed with Satoshi Nakamoto about the future, essentially. Like, here's how things should be implemented. And so he was very much a protege of Satoshi Nakamoto. The only other guy that it could have been was Mike Hearn. And I think Mike Hearn could have been passed these keys, but Mike Hearn really liked to spar with people. Like, Mike Hearn's kind of a tough guy, and he was always like, hey man, I'm going to fight you back. I'm going to call you a jackass. I'm going to call you a liar. I will just say it how it is. But it made him a little more controversial. Whereas Gavin was quite a bit more of an emissary about things. He was very calm and collected. I think Gavin's big mistake, I think the worst thing that ever happened in Bitcoin, possibly, was Gavin distributing his own power almost immediately after receiving it. Is he received the keys to the repo, making him the sole person that could add code to the Bitcoin repo, and he decided to give that power and split it among 5 other people. And that was really, I mean, it was like all of those people ended up stabbing him in the back about 3 years later, and ultimately kicking him out of the project because he was the only person who was ultimately a big blocker and working on his own implementation of Bitcoin that had, if I recall, a 2 or a 6 megabyte block size limit. I forget now. But everybody else was a small blocker, and a good bit of them were also involved in Blockstream. And, everybody's values changed, and Gavin got himself edged out pretty quickly. It's really unfortunate because I think Gavin, to this day, I think he's a good person. Really soft-spoken, classy guy, but he's a little bit, he's very soft. He has a very soft demeanor, and, he's not ready if 5 people are going to bully him in a project that he cares about, like I just don't think he has the gumption to push back in a way that's effective. And so that was kind of the unfortunate demise of Gavin. And I think it's no small no small part of the story that he was kicked out the week that he came out and said that Craig Wright is Satoshi Nakamoto. He's sufficiently proven it to me, both via 2 signatures on 2 laptops, both that I verified, but also the fact that we had these private conversations that really only Satoshi Nakamoto could have had with me, because they were talking one-on-one in person about things that Gavin and Satoshi had only spoken about in private in the past. And so that was Gavin's primary verification that Craig Wright was Satoshi Nakamoto. And as soon as he came out with that, he was persona non grata, and then you're out of the project, Gavin. Good luck. Don't call.